watching him.
Tarantulas. Giant tarantulas.
Was this Dr. No's killing ground?
Must be 20 of them at least. Have to get past them, somehow.
He seized the mesh and wrenched it out of the frame. The spider scuttled towards him. He took his wire spear and jabbed it again and again into the mass of writhing furry insects.
Bash and bash into blood and fur!
Bond shot his body over the pulp of crushed spiders and through the jagged frame.
The shaft is sloping downwards.
Steeper and steeper.
Glimmer of grey light ahead.
Now the shaft was widening. He could no longer get a grip.
Going faster and faster.
Faster and faster.
Bend just ahead.
Bond's body crashed into the bend and round it.
Christ!
He was diving head downwards.
Out of control!
The metal flayed his skin.
Stay alive, you fool! Stay alive!
Bond's body shot out of the shaft and fell through the air slowly, slowly, down towards the gunmetal sea that waited for him 100 feet below. He was in a narrow, deep-water inlet at the base of a towering cliff. A strong wire fence stretched from the rock walls of the inlet, caging it off from the open sea. Below him, the water quivered. Something was stirring in the depths, something huge. A great length of luminescent greyness showed poised far down in the darkness.
God! Oh, God!
Two eyes as big as footballs stared out through the quiet water. Bond's skin crawled on his back. This was the creature that had crippled Pussfella, the giant squid that could pull ships beneath the waves, the mythical kraken that battled with whales. The surface of the water shivered. Bond could see a forest of tentacles. He snaked his feet and arms through the squares in the wire fence, lacing himself into them. The great eyes watched him coldly, patiently. Delicately, like the questing trunk of an elephant, one of the long tentacles broke the surface and palped its way towards Bond's leg. Like a huge, slimy caterpillar, the tentacle moved slowly, slowly up his leg. And then...
The tanker. From Antwerp.
The tanker from Antwerp had arrived.
Antwerp!
Part of the world outside, a world that was 1,000,000 miles away. The suckers bit into his body. The head of the squid broke the surface of the water. Bond was being pulled down inch by inch. The creature's eyes glared at him redly, venomously. There was one hope, only one. His hand dived for the crook of the wire spear. He wrenched the wire as straight as he could. He lunged down with all his force. He caught a glimpse of the tip of his spear lancing into the center of the black eyeball, and then the whole sea erupted into a foul fountain of blackness.
What's happened? Have I gone blind?
He wiped a hand across his face. Streaks of light came into his eyes.
Must get out! Must get out while I can!
Bond hauled himself up the slippery wall of the cliff. Suddenly, as he grabbed hold of the fence at the top, he felt a rush of human flesh, flailing fists, sharp teeth biting deeply into the calf of his right leg. And then, just a glimpse. Ash-blonde hair.
Honey! Honey, it's me!
James! My God!
Help me! Help me over this fence!
What happened?
Squid! Giant squid! Emptied its bloody ink all over me.
Here, come here. Let me wipe you down.
My God, honey. You certainly pack a hefty punch.
Sorry, darling James. I thought you were one of the guards.
What happened? How did you get away from the crabs?
Silly old fool, Dr. No. He thinks he knows everything. Black crabs don't like meat. They live on plants. And if he did kill a black girl that way, she must have died of fright.
But you fainted.
Well, I knew he'd do something much worse to you. That's why.
God almighty, I had visions of you being torn to pieces.
Sit still. Let me clean you properly. It wasn't much fun. I was tied down to pegs in the ground, and then I heard the crabs beginning to run. Rattling along. Hundreds of them. They walked round me and over. I might have been a rock for all they cared. I just lay there very still and waited for the early morning when they crawl into their holes and go to sleep. There. That's got most of it off. My God. Your body. What have they done to you?
Later, honey. No time to talk. We've got to get out of here. Let's see what's going on. Let me take a look over those rocks. The loading jetty's right beneath us. There's a tanker alongside. the Blanche from Antwerp. There's a conveyor belt and a crane. Presumably the crane lifts the conveyor belt into the hold of the tanker. That's how they load the guano.
Okay to go?
Okay, start the engine. Start the conveyor belt. Stand by to load.
God, look who's there. The doctor himself.
Let me see.
Get back!
What's he doing?
Just watching. Making sure everything's okay.
Commence loading.
Loading commence!
What's that noise?
Tons of bird shit pouring into the hold. Get down! Looks like scrambled egg. God, what filthy stuff.
Let me see.
Keep down!
What are you doing?
Crane driver. I could reach him.
Oh, James.
If I climb to that ledge, I'll be no more than a few feet from the cabin. He's concentrating on his work. He won't see me.
He might.
It's our only chance.
What'll you do?
Break his neck.
Oh, God.
The 2 iron footholds at the back of the cabin looked solid enough. The noise of the engine would drown any other sound. But he'd have to be quick to yank the man's body out of the seat and get his own hands and feet on controls. No room for any mistake. Bond jumped onto the crane with all the stealth and speed of a panther. He stood behind the man's back, smelling his sweat. He seized the man's head, forcing it back, grabbing the smooth, brownish yellow skin, jerking it back, holding it back, pressing down and back with all his strength. The tip of the crane arced across the sky. Now the mouth of the conveyor was spewing the dust column down over the side of the ship. Dr. No turned towards the crane, trying to see what had gone wrong. The yellow mound was spreading silently across the jetty towards Dr. No. 5 yards. 4 yards. 3.
Don't look around, you bastard.
Dr. No took a step towards the crane. What had he seen?
Now you take it, Dr. No.
The stinking dust column engulfed Dr. No. Bond saw the long arms fling wide as if to embrace the thudding mess. One knee rose to run. The mouth opened. There was a brief glimpse of a kind of dancing marionette. And then only a mound of yellow bird dung that grew higher and higher. The governor's daughters were playing tennis.
Good serve.
In a cool, shadowy room, 5 men were sitting around a massive conference table. His Excellency, the acting governor, was chairing an emergency meeting.
You're quite sure of all this?
Yes, sir. Quite sure.
We mustn't let anything get out to the press. You understand that?
Backhand.
I'll send my report to the Secretary of State by the next bag. I'm sure I can rely on your discretion.
I think we can assume that Commander Bond is unlikely to communicate with anyone except his department, sir.
Quite so.
And if I may say so, sir, I think we should take steps to clear up Crab Key without waiting for approval from London.
Very well. I shall leave the arrangements in your hands, Colonial Secretary. It only remains for me to express my appreciation to Commander Bond for his part in this affair. I shall not fail to mention your assistance, Commander, to the Secretary of State.
But Bond had stopped listening.
Oh, well done, Angie. Your serve.
His mind drifted into a world of tennis courts and lily ponds, of people being photographed with pigeons on their heads in Trafalgar Square, of the Forsythia that would soon be blazing on the bypass roundabouts, of the douce weather of England.
Ever heard the Jamaican expression, "ras"?
No?
"Ras, man," means, as you can probably guess, stuff it up. Would have been entirely appropriate for you to have used the expression just now. The point is, he doesn't want any trouble, the acting governor. I feel I should apologize on behalf of those of us who dwell in King's House. Is there anything else I can do for you?
You got that signal off to my chief?
I did. Urgent rates.
Good. And do please talk to the Jamaica Institute people about the girl. She knows a hell of a lot about the natural history of the island. If they've got the right sort of job, I'd like to see her settled.
Leave it to me.
If you and your wife could, keep an eye on her.
It'll be a pleasure. Betty's rather good at looking after people. She'll enjoy taking the girl under her wing.
Thanks. Thanks for everything.
As he drove, Bond thought of Crab Key, the hot, ugly wind, the stink of marsh gas from the mangrove swamps.
By now, they'll have found Dr. No's body. They'll have washed the yellow dust off him and wrapped him in one of his own kimonos. And where had his soul gone to? Had it been a bad soul? Or just a mad one?
Bond thought of the burned twist down in the swamp that had once been Quarrel. Surely he hadn't gone to the same place as Dr. No. Whatever happened to dead people, there was surely one place for the warm and another for the cold. And which, when the time came, would he, James Bond, go to? She was wearing a black and white striped cotton skirt and a tight sugar-pink blouse. The golden hair smelled of cheap shampoo. She looked incredibly fresh and beautiful. Bond took her in his arms and kissed her hard on the lips. They lay on the soft grass beneath the stars.
Honey, I have to go to Kingston tomorrow, to the hospital. I may be there several days. But I've arranged for a man from Government House to look after you. His name's
Shush. No more.
No.
Shush. Shush. Tell me later. This is my night with you. Please, James. Talk about love.
Dr. No by Ian Fleming was dramatised by Hugh Whitemore. James Bond was played by Toby Stephens and Honey Rider by Lisa Dillon. M was played by John Standing and Moneypenny by Janie Dee. The Armourer, Peter Capaldi, Chief of Staff, Nicky Henson, Playdell Smith, Samuel West, and Quarrel, Clark Peters. Inika Lee Wright played the airport announcer and the hotel receptionist. Cobner Holbrook Smith was Puss Feller, the airport official, and a henchman of Dr. No.